Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video. We've got some fun merge tactic stuff to talk about. All of this is inside of the News Royale tab. I want to go over this, kind of share my thoughts as we look through it. I would love to hear y'all's comments down below while I talk about stuff. Let me know your opinion. Let me know if you think this is going to turn the game around, all that kind of stuff. We'll kind of chat about what I think is going to be really strong, what I think is not going to be strong, all that kind of stuff. There is a lot going on, which makes me so happy because the game right now needs a lot. So I am excited. Let's go ahead, jump in here, see how things look. Okay, so right off the rip. Oh, awesome. Thank you guys for the continued support. I know that it's been a little sparse over here with the merge tactics. I have not been enjoying it, and so I'm very ready for this. I'm ready for these changes. I'm ready for this new stuff. Obviously, we already have the seasonal reset that we know about. I think that's a great idea. That's going to be awesome. Goblin Queen. We were right when we guessed Goblin Queen there. It made sense. I feel like it was pretty obvious. Defeating an enemy troop grants you a 40% chance of spawning a goblin. Now, obviously, there are a couple of goblins. We got the regular stab goblins, spear goblins, dark goblin, and goblin machine. I would hope / I imagine there are going to be hidden percentages as well from the 2-cost ones up to 3 and 4 there. So that is going to be interesting to find out, because obviously if you get a free, if you defeat, if there's 6 units down, and you defeat all of them with a 40% chance. What does that mean? That means you have like a 2.5% chance, or you have the chance of getting 2.5 goblins, somewhere around there. If both of those were goblin machines, that would then give you so much elixir and give you a massive advantage. So Goblin Queen already sounds really good. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how she works. Goblins aren't that good. The goblin machine is good, and obviously dark goblins are good. But like the whole goblin synergy as a whole of having 4 goblins down typically isn't the best thing. But in regards to economy and gaining elixir, that's going to be awesome. Lung. I've been able to play test these, and Lung is sick. Endless Spring, gain 1 elixir per turn and +1 team size. We all know how impactful the first 2 to 3 rounds of the game can be. And if you have an extra unit down that can help you take out your opponent's units and stay alive, like think about what that's doing. You take out your opponent and you have more things on your side to hit them for more life. So off the rip, you could knock somebody down 7. Or you could take away 7 total life in the first 2 rounds, because you're starting off, you can have 3 things, I believe that's how it is, per turn. So +1 elixir per turn and 1 team size. So first turn, the very first one, if you're lucky enough to get 2 stars and get like a duplicate and buy and sell, you could have 3 off the rip and probably have all 3 of them survive. So someone is immediately going to go down to 6, which is huge because they haven't even been able to establish themselves on the board. And then the next round, if they face somebody else who's playing Lung and that person has 4 units down, if they were goblins or whatever, and they're able to buy and sell and they can get some crazy stuff, then they're going to knock down 5. And it's just like you're already down to 1 by round 3. So Lung can be very strong, I think. New skins, all that kind of stuff, visual effects, super dope. I don't need to read all of that. I think that's awesome. I really want them to go the route of cosmetic monetization. And I think that'll be really cool. Okay, so 7 new troops have entered the Merge Tactics Arena alongside 3 new traits. First, let's meet the rookies. Okay, so 7 new troops. We've got 2 elixir troops, skeleton dragons, undead, and ranger. Okay, splits to create a new skeleton dragon after every few attacks. Now, that sounds like it could be very good, but with how strong splash damage is in the game, I imagine that it could also feel pretty weak because it splits and then it's right next to it, and so it's almost as if it doesn't split. Yeah, it'll be doing a little bit more damage, but it would be crazy OP if it went like 2 tiles away so it didn't get hit by splash damage, like by the wizard or whatever. But sounds pretty cool. Undead Ranger, like thinking of all the combinations with this new one is really, really cool because there's just so many more options. There's going to be so many more options for stuff that people are just going to be able to figure out while playing, which is so cool because we didn't always know Clan Avengers was as strong as it was. We knew that it was strong, and then once people kind of figured it out, then it was like, this is way too broken. And so I think there's going to be lots of different ways to win now, which makes me really happy because depending on what you're facing, you're like, okay, they have this going on. Cool. I need to get a wizard and like do this. And you're going to be able to have so many different traits, which is really cool. Another 2 elixir troop, the wizard, fire and mage. We talked about this in the last one. Mage turns something into a rabbit for a while. Let's see what the actual thing is. Enemy troop. Oh, okay, so it just says for some time. 2 troops. That says 8 seconds. I'm not sure if that's the case. If it is 8 seconds, that is an incredibly long time. The strongest enemy troop. Like, imagine that now against Clan Rank or against Clan Avengers right now. If you could turn the bandit into a rabbit for 8 seconds, they would probably still win, but still. So Fire Mage throws a fireball at enemies in the area. So that's going to be great against the frontline things. It's going to be doing great AoE damage. And we'll be able to see what the fire trait is here. Gain stackable bonus damage upon enemies' defeat. So that's awesome. Each strike deals 15%. Whoa, wait, what? Or is that... Oh, it's below it. Okay. So 2 troops, 40%. Gain stackable bonus damage upon enemy. Okay, so 40% bonus damage once something is defeated that you have had aid in, I believe. Like, I don't think you have to get the last hit, like with the Golden Knight. Gain stackable upon enemy's defeat. So that's pretty cool. So we got that. Now, 3 elixir troops. Electro Giant, which you would look at and be like, it's an Electro Giant. What do you mean it's 3 elixir? It's okay. Summons an electric field around himself, dealing damage and stunning nearby enemies every second. Now, also, what do we see? Electric and Avenger. So Avengers is definitely getting a change, which is awesome. But summons an electric field around himself, dealing damage and stunning nearby enemies every second. Now, I imagine that it's going to be something that you work up towards. Like, it's not immediate, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's got to fight for a little bit, and then he'll be able to do that. So that's pretty cool. Musketeer here. A tanky gunner, which is a very interesting concept. A tanky gunner who pushes 3 enemies back every few hits. So here's where my mind goes with this. We see tanky, which means it can be in the front 2 rows if you want, okay? And then it pushes 3 enemies back every few hits. So it's a noble blaster, okay? We have noble rangers, which is the princess. So princess is noble as well. The musketeer will push 3 enemies back to the princess who's doing... So, like, there's that connection right there with the noble and the ranger. So imagine pushing them back and the rangers or the princess being able to do that damage deep there. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be really good. And just tanky gunner sounds really cool. Like, up close, not putting it back in range. Seems like a very interesting concept. And then obviously it adds to noble, which is pretty rad. I've always thought noble was a fun one, but prince was just pretty weak. So, you know. 4 elixir troops. Baby dragon. It's kind of crazy. Burps big fireballs that deal damage in a wide area. Fire and blaster. Now, blaster is like the new throwers. If we go down here, you can see that it is now called blaster. I don't know why. I imagine because they got rid of the bomber and they added these other ones, and they aren't throwing anything, they're shooting it. So they just decided to change the title. But I don't really think that the executioner is blasting anything, but who knows? Burps big fireballs that deal damage in a wide area. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see how all of this works out. I've always been a fan of AoE damage dealing things. And it's pretty cool, especially as we're going to be able to like knock things, like think about this. If you have your your baby dragon over on the left, and maybe your wizard over there, and your musketeer in the front right, and it shoots things over to the left. It's gonna knock them back into that AoE damage, and it could be timed up with that burp. If you look at how many hits it takes and they move over there, etc. I don't really know, but there's lots of concepts and like strategies in that regard to where placement is going to be important. Like right now, placement is kind of important. It's very important depending on what you're playing. But if you're playing Clan Avengers, placement doesn't feel like it does anything. You know, like you can try your hardest to place things and it's just like Bandit dashing all over the place. You're like, okay, cool. Well, I'm happy that I tried. But now it feels like placement is going to be huge. And so learning the strategies of placement is going to be awesome. I'm really, really excited for that. We've got the Electro Wizard as a 4-cost. Electric and Mage. So there are 2 mages, the Wizard and the Electro Wizard. And then Electric, you have the E-Wiz and the Electro Giant. So 2 things there to get that full stack, as you can see right here. Oh no, it actually looks like, 2 troops. Each strike deals 15% max HP damage. After 10 seconds, lightning strikes all enemies once and stunned troops 3 times. So if you can figure out how to time it correctly, if something is stunned at this 10-second period, whether that's you using a bandit or a Mega Knight or a giant skeleton bomb, whatever it could be, if something is stunned, it's going to get hit 3 times by that lightning. Electric feels pretty freaking cool. I'm excited to see it implemented for sure. But the E-Wiz shoots lightning with his hands, stunning multiple enemies every few seconds. Multiple to me is more than 2, and we saw in that intro video 3 things stunned, so I imagine that that's what it's going to do. But it shoots lightning with his hands, stunning multiple enemies every few seconds. Okay, so again, placement issues. If you see an Electric Wizard, you're going to need to figure out how to defend against that Electro Wizard, knowing that it is going to stun your units. I imagine, after looking at all of this, that stun is going to be very strong, and they are going to need to pay attention to it, because CC or crowd control inside of games like this can be extremely frustrating to deal with and incredibly unfun. So somebody could go Electro Wizard, Electro Giant, especially if they're playing Lung, they can have 7. Electro Wizard, Electro Giant for the stuns, Mega Knight, Giant Skeleton, Bandit, that's 5. And then you have 2 more to figure out your other overlaps to just freaking make everything be stunned, man. Like, if you have the Electro Wizard, you would just throw the regular wizard in there as well. So that gives you 6, and that gives you Mage, which then also stuns because it turns something into a bunny. And then you could figure out one other thing that you wanted to put in there. If you go with Baby Dragon, that will give you Fire, as well as Mage, and I think you get a little bit of, that's not Blaster. So there's just lots of different freaking things that you can do that are going to be incredibly frustrating to deal with, but I'm excited for it. I think that is going to be really, really fun to relearn, y'all, because we are going to have to relearn. Like, the Witch is an undead Avenger, man, so things are going to be different. We've got so ability bars, this is what I was talking about. Never fear, the ability bars. Here, the ability bar will fill up as a troop's specialty ability gains momentum. The following troops will have ability bars to their health bar, so you will be able to see when something is about to go off. Bandit, Goblin Machine, Mega Knight, Royal Ghost, Musketeer ability bar that I mentioned, Electro Giant ability bar, Electro Wizard, Skeleton Dragon ability bar for the split, and then the Witch. The Witch is an undead Avenger. Every few seconds, she summons skeletons with 50% of her max HP and attack. So every few seconds, I would say that it would say couple if it meant 2. Few is probably 3 again. So that's the guess on her. I imagine that we can look at it and know more eventually just by playing. But as of right now, reading that's what we think. Skeletons with 50% of her max HP. So think about this. If you have Noble going down, and you have that front line, or you have Juggernaut, that's not max HP. I don't remember if Noble was max HP or not. But either way, there are probably some opportunities where the witch can be a beast and create beastly skeletons. Also, think about the witch with the skeleton king and the number of skeletons that over time could end up being on the board that just freaking distract, especially if you're going up against melee units who don't do AoE damage. If you can get multiple skeletons down on the board, just walking around, it's going to be bothersome. Now, sometimes those skeletons do end up blocking your own units from doing stuff, so you're going to want to have ranged units as well in order for that to fully kind of flush itself out. Let's go ahead, jump into the rest. Comment down below how y'all are feeling about those things. New traits. Throwers have been reworked. I need some water. Into blasters. 3 new traits have been added, and all traits will now be activated. I love this. All be activated in groups of 2, 4, or even 6 with some modifiers. So I believe that that means there is a modifying mode. Where are the modifiers at? Sorry, I just flew way past you guys. It's probably with the trait dummy, maybe something like that. But there's one of the modifiers. I don't know if we'll cover the modifiers in this video. We might though. So blasters gain +1 range and extra damage based on the distance. So if you have 2 blasters, okay, so spear goblin and executioner, if you're thinking of it like that, 2 troops, 10% damage per hex. Blasters gain 1 range and extra damage based on the distance. So they gain 1 total range, which means they can now throw further. And then if they're hitting whatever as a 1-star at the 4-star distance, 10% per damage, 40% more damage in that range. That's why you would see a 3-star executioner just like beep beep, just knock down a 2-star archer to practically be dead very quickly. And then 4 troops, 20% damage per hex, which is pretty wild. Gonna be super fun. Electric. After 10 seconds, we already talked about this. Lightning strikes. That's cool. 2 troops, each strike deals 15% max HP damage. So that means after each one, the number is going to be different because now that 15% will be based off of a... Oh no, 15% max HP damage. Yeah, okay, so never mind. They just 1, 2, 3, knocking it down. If they're stunned, they get hit 3 times. Otherwise, it's just 15% max HP. So if you have something really low and then that lightning goes off, you're going to be good. AoE is going to be really, really good. Fire gains stackable bonus damage upon enemy's defeat. 2 troops, 40%. So, because it's stackable, that means if 2 troops are defeated, they're going to go up to 80% damage? Bro, that's nuts, man. Gains stackable bonus damage upon enemy's defeat. Maybe it is based off of if they get the last hit. I don't know. But that means they could be at 120% damage. Maybe their damage is just low because they know that things are going to be stacking. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out. Mage, combat start, strongest enemy troop is turned into a harmless rabbit for some time. I imagine strongest is actually based off of how much health it has. I'm not sure about that, but that would make sense to me. It could be based off of damage, though. That would make sense with the terminology of strongest, but I'm not really sure. 2 troops, 8 seconds is only those. Ability bars, we already read about that. Changes. So long, Bomber. We know that. Bomber has a few personal matters to tend to for now. But you never know. He might be back someday. That's funny. Assassin, Avenger, and Ranger. I love this. Traits can now be activated with 2 or 4 in battle. So you can choose to have just 2 assassins, 2 rangers, and then 2 more of something else, which is like super cool because there's even more overlap. So at a certain point, you're going to be able to have so many traits. Executioner, Thrower, Blaster. Spear Goblin, Thrower, Blaster. Bandit, Avenger, Assassin. Bandit is now no longer part of Ace. Valkyrie, Avenger, Juggernaut. Yes, Valkyrie is no longer a part of Clan. Yes. P.E.K.K.A, Juggernaut, Avenger. Cool. So different thing going on. I like it. Clan. Clans no longer heal their teammates with 4 active troops. Good. It was insane. Thank you. I'm happy about that. Very good. 4 of them heal 60% max HP and gain 60% hit speed. So they heal like crazy. Now, they don't heal other stuff, and you need 4 of them and 60% hit speed. But with that healing and all that, if you go stun against this, it seems like it'll probably be pretty good. Now, frontline nobles, not any troops, okay, so just noble, take less damage, while backline nobles, not any troop, gain bonus damage. New activation stats for 6 troops in certain modifiers. So that means in some of the modifiers, you're going to gain something, probably a dummy that is a noble or something like that. So right now we know that nobles are prince, knight, princess, golden knight, and then we go up here and we see noble blaster, musketeer, okay? And then if you gain the dummy with the noble on it, then the plan is going to be to go noble because you get that 45%. Y'all, taking 45% less damage and doing 45% bonus damage from that back line. You would probably be putting your musketeer in the front line. Remember, she's tanky. Put her in the front, have her knock things back so the princess hits her. Freaking awesome. Undead, new activation stats for 6 troops in certain modifiers. We lost the bomber, but we have the royal ghost, the giant skeleton, the skeleton king, the skeleton dragons, and the witch. Okay, and then you have the dummy as well. So it's pretty cool. Let's head over to, and then 6 or curses 4 enemies if you're at 6. Curses 4 enemies, max HP cut by 75%. That's freaking wild, dude. So depending on which dummy you get, you're either going to be like, okay, I'm going undead or I'm going noble, is what it seems like if you're playing that mode, which is cool because sometimes that mode was kind of like, I don't know. I didn't always know what to do with it. Excuse me. Ace. All aces gain 20% hit speed at combat start. Cool. Your strongest ace becomes the captain instead of the strongest troop with the highest merge level. So you can be very particular how you level this up. If you want that Mega Knight to be your ace, you level it up more than the others or whatever. And that becomes the captain. If you have 2 of them, captain gains 40% bonus damage, which would be nuts for the Mega Knight. And if you have 4 of them, captain gains 60% bonus damage and 50% HP of damage dealt. Whoa. 60% bonus damage and 50% HP of damage. So it's going to be healing back for that 50% of that 60%. So 30% of the damage that it does, I guess, is what it's going to be gaining, which is freaking crazy. That math was probably way off. Brawlers gain even more max bonus HP and no longer heal teammates at 4 active. Okay, 50, 100% HP. That's kind of dope. Brawlers were kind of trash, but here's the thing. I don't want my giant skeleton to have extra health. I want him to go down. That's what he does. Now, if he stays alive for longer, then yeah, sure, he's just going to go down later when things are at a lower health. So he'll probably take out more of them. It's just going to take him longer to get that stun activated. Ranger buffs are now activated at 2 and 4. Super cool. 10% and 15%. And it doesn't look like it's stackable. It's got to still be stackable, right? Otherwise, that's going to suck. Yeah, I'm sure that it's still stackable. Juggernaut. Juggernauts and allies behind now not only have a shield, but also immune to control effects when shielded. So, if someone is going electric, what are you gonna do? Answer the question, class. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go Juggernaut, because at that beginning, they are not going to be shielded, or they're not going to take those stun effects, which is gonna be freaking awesome. 30% shield of max HP, 60% shield of max HP. Now, I believe that it took the Electro Giant a while, every few seconds, but the electric thing is after 10 seconds. So that stun will still probably happen because I highly doubt you're still going to have that Juggernaut buff after 10 seconds. Assassin's buffs are now activated at 2 and 4 instead of 3. That's awesome. 25% critical damage and 50% critical damage. It is now the Goblin, the Golden Knight, the Royal Ghost, and the Bandit, which I think is pretty cool. I feel like the Bandit fits in Assassins and should have been there all along. So the Bandit will still be good, but now that the Bandit doesn't have that Avenger buff, I think it's going to be awesome. And it'll feel a lot more balanced. Avenger buffs are now activated at 2 and 4, 20% and 40%. Cool. New modifiers. Oh my gosh, big yawn. Whoa, what the heck? Let's see. All of these Silver 2, Fighting Fever. I mean, I don't want to read through all of those, honestly. Changes and improvements. Let's look at some of these. Because modifiers we'll figure out. What's this, though? New modifiers coming in. Oh, those are the other ones. Cool. Okay, changes and improvements. When spectating, enemy troops will stay on the top side of the screen as if you are about to battle them. So you get the exact enemy troop positions instead of a mirrored version. That's good because there was all that. You had to be like, oh, you'd have to learn how to see things in reverse, like a mirror image. So that's going to take a little bit of getting used to, remembering that they're actually how they're going to be when you face them instead of mirroring it. So that's going to be something good for new players to see. They jump in, they play, it makes sense that they're in those locations. Troops in the shop are now in random order, no longer ranked from the lowest to highest. I don't like that, but I think that is going to make it more complicated for people buying and selling. And I also think that it will probably slow down some of the elixir gains because people are going to have to think for just that little bit longer before buying things. Bench troops won't be auto-deployed if your team size is below the max number. That's cool because there's that one modifier where if you have less troops, you do better. And I've wanted to leave things off before, and sometimes it pulls them down. You can now see how many bench troops your opponent has. So an empty bench means it's really empty, but opponent's bench troops will still be hidden. So that's cool. So you can see if you think you're going up against someone with assassins and they're trying to hide it, even though people aren't going to try and hide assassins anymore. They might try and hide 4 assassins. They're not going to try and hide 2 assassins. Like, that's just going to be, I feel like that would be ridiculous. Maybe I will. Who knows? Maybe I'm just speaking against myself there. But the only thing that people really hide typically is those assassins because you backline stuff. So I think that's pretty cool to be able to see that. More detailed polishes for the battle phase. Noticeable countdown. Yeah. Polishing the UI and UX, such as player panel at the top of the screen. That's cool. Battle end UI becomes toggleable. That's cool. More ruler animations. Elixir collector from the modifier can now be sold by tapping the sell button on its details page. Cool. All right, y'all. How are you feeling, man? That was a lot to go over. I will say, because you guys know that I've been very vocal about this, I have not held back from my frustrations because they are very serious, and I love merge tactics, and I think that it has a massive potential to be wildly successful. This is 1,000% in the right direction. I feel so much better. I have told them, though. You need to respond quicker to broken, overpowered builds so that the meta does not get stale and people stop. You have one more chance. Like, literally, like, you cannot waste this chance again, okay? People were already very disappointed in how long it took for things to happen since launch. If you do it again, people are going to lose trust. It's like that whole fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. That whole saying. If you do it again, people are just going to move on and play other things. So you have one more chance to do this correctly, to be communicative with the people, say, hey, we recognize that this is an issue. Over the next week, we're going to be coming up with things to fix it. That's all you really need. And silence, crickets, nope, people are gone. You got to be vocal. You have to say, hey, we've recognized some complaints about this. Maybe put a poll or something in here, or a form to fill out, like, hey, do you currently enjoy facing Clan Avengers? Would you rather Clan Avengers be gone than be in the game? Well, how do you think it, like, put that type of stuff in there? And if people vote for it and it says it, then they're like, okay, we've heard your feedback. Over the next couple of days to week, we're going to figure it out and we're going to implement it in our next balance changes. you need to be talking to your community. Otherwise, they think that you don't care. So hopefully they do that. I'm excited. Incredibly hopeful, y'all. Incredibly hopeful. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I love ya. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.